This video is all about drawing ears. I have to admit I've avoided this subject for a while because ears are not the most glamorous thing to draw or to teach how to draw. And I debated a lot with myself about how to approach this because there's a lot of intricate forms that go into an ear, but ultimately it's an ear. You want it to be something that you can draw very, very quickly and very easily on the page without fighting and without having to overthink. Any form, especially on the face, that looks wrong is going to immediately draw the eye. So it's important to have your ears working well and be something that complements your face rather than takes away from it. But in my opinion, I think they're a fairly easy thing to learn how to draw. And it should be something that you can do just as a very, very quick shorthand without really having to put a lot of thought into it. You'll draw a lot of ears over the course of your career or your drawing hobby. And it's something that you want to just be a very, very simple, easy thing for you to put down on the page. So with that said, let's get started.
All right, to start drawing the ear, first we need to figure out exactly where it goes on the head. It's very, very simple. You start with a line from your nose and a line from your eyebrow. These are even divisions. This one to this one to this one to this one to the chin. They're all evenly sized. So you're going to take this middle division here. This will be the top of your ear, and that'll be the bottom of the ear. And so I'm going to go ahead and just quickly draw an ear in here. We're going to talk about some of the form that goes into it. But for now, let's get it established. There you go. You have an ear, and it's proportional to the head. From the side of the head, the ear doesn't actually line up exactly on this line. It actually angles back just a little bit. So be aware of that. I've got a line from my brow here, a line from my nose, and I'm going to go ahead and put the top of my ear here, the bottom of my ear here. I've got a little lobe piece that goes in here. This piece connects up in here. It's like a large ring. It curves and then curves back down into a lobe. That's going to connect here. Then you have the interior part of your ear right here. It's just like an interior structure, just like this. And on a simple level, there you go. That is an ear on the side of the head. I find ears tend to be something that artists really skip. A lot of artists skip studying as much as they should because they're really not that much fun to draw. But having figures with ears that look odd really, really does stand out to somebody looking at the artwork. It's like having hands that look wrong. They're such a recognizable part of the human face and something that we see every day. They need to be drawn in a way that looks recognizable. And so I'm going to go ahead and draw this side, a profile of the ear again. And I want to emphasize that as I draw my ears, I'm really not worried about individual parts and their names and how everything works. None of that really matters. What I want is a shorthand for an ear that I can draw very, very quickly and very easily. I need something that is reliable and repeatable. So this top curve that goes around the ear comes in here, and then you have a piece right here, and then you have your lobe here, and then you have your interior structure, and that just goes inside here. Just like this, and like this. Very, very simple. Your outer ring connects like this. And this top part splits at the top, basically like this. It's actually a very simple structure. I'm just going to do it again really fast. So you have the outer shape of your ear, just like this. Like this. You have your lobe here. You have your little tabby thing that goes here and connects to your cheek. And then you have your interior structure that's going to connect in here. And there you go. It really doesn't need to be anything super fancy. I should point out that this isn't just a soft curve, or it can be, I suppose, but it's much more effective if you go just a little bit harder and give it a bit of a bump out here. I shaped it a little bit differently here. It really doesn't matter. Everybody's ear is different, but you want something that has a little bit of an organic feel to it. You'll notice that the way that I'm drawing my ears, I'm really not worrying about volumes and shapes and complex things with this because it's an ear. It doesn't change shapes the way that your hand does it whenever you move it. It's much more simple. So you just really need to learn the basic shapes. And now to draw this from the front the way that we did here, I've got the top of my ear here, and I'm going to put the bottom basically here. So just about halfway through, I've got this shape right here. And then if I have the side of my head here, this part comes out at an angle like this. And I've got my lobe connecting here. And this part here, you can see it round from the front, just about like this, and connecting down into the lobe. And then you have your interior part right here. And that's basically it. It's not a difficult thing to do. I do want to show you something though, and this is really important to the way that I draw ears. I really like overlapping. I didn't do it when I drew this just now, but I'm going to take this piece here and I'm going to overlap the line on top of this piece. And you can see that gives it a lot of depth that isn't there otherwise. I can kind of do the same thing here. And you can create a lot of depth just with that kind of simple overlapping. But really the most important overlap is here. And so let's just do this again. So I've got the top of my ear like this. I've got my interior lobe. This is going to actually project out kind of past my ring, my bottom lobe right here. And that right there. And there's an ear. It's very, very simple. I highly recommend that you just get used to drawing this shape. And you can see that as I've drawn it, it's not exactly the same. It really does change for me every time. And it really doesn't matter. This time I can see some of that exterior here. This time it's kind of a little bit pushed back. Ears on people tend to be very different. And so I don't worry about the fact that I've changed it just a little bit from one picture to the other. You can see that they basically work the same way. It's all very, very simple shapes. We're going to draw it from behind. This is like the ultimate easy ear. So we have this outward arc here connecting to the lobe here. And then the whole thing kind of connects to the side of your head like that. It does not get too much easier than that. And I'm really not going to explain it beyond that because that's really all there is to it. And I think any extra explanation on top of that is just really a waste of time. So there's the ear for the side, the front, and the back. Very, very simple. I want these to be shapes that I can draw really, really quickly. And just to show you, I'm going to go ahead and draw an ear from the front about as fast as I would sketch one in if I'm drawing an actual head. So let's start with the head. Might as well do this right. I'm going to be very loose and sketchy with this because we're sketching a head in, and this is the way that I always like to draw. I don't just go in and start drawing type things. I like to be pretty loose with it at first, and then I can lighten it down and get exactly what I want much easier. So here's an eye, here's another eye. Being nice and quick. This is just a rough in. My nose. I'm being a little heavier than I would be with my hand if I was just doing a rough in. So I want to make sure that you guys can see what I'm doing here. I've got a cheek here, another cheek here. Just putting our head together nice and quick. Top of my head basically here. So there you go. There's a very, very simple head, just as a rough in. And so I'm just going to draw both ears. So I know my ear is basically here. Got the centerpiece, the bottom. This connects in here. And then there we go. And I'm going to draw the other ear on the other side. It's going to be just about here. And there's another ear. Really, really fast. I don't want to have to be overthinking these things every time I draw them. And I think part of the reason why people have ears that are not as good as they could be is because it's not really broken down into just a really, really simple, almost like handwriting shorthand. And that's really what you need for an ear. We're going to cover some lighting in a bit. Before we do that, we're going to start covering some different angles that can give you a little bit more trouble. Maybe. So I'm going to draw an ear from a 3/4. I'm not going to draw the features. I'll just draw a head. Here's my center line, brow line, my nose line, my chin line. And so this is a 3/4 view of a head. Really, really, really simple construction for this. Depending on how much information you'd like to have before you start drawing in your features, you might want more, but that's what we're using for this. And so I've got a 3/4. And really all this means is that as I draw the ear, which is going to be in here, slightly back, I'm going to start with my this piece right here. Draw my top curve around. Basically what I'm doing, I can see more than I would see from the front and less than I would see from the exact side. That's going to connect in here. I like that overlap. That puts this one in front. And there we go. Super fast. And I'm going to point out, actually, as I do this, I'm going to actually tighten this face up a little bit because I have something I really want to show you. And then I'll show you exactly a use case for why this is so nice to get the hang of. So here's an eye. It's a little high. There's an eye. There's my brow. My nose. Super fast. And you might be thinking, am I sure that my ear is exactly where it needs to be? Is it too close to the eyes or is it too far away? That's a problem I see very, very often with people's artwork. When it comes to 3/4 angles or more odd angles, the ear starts to drift away into some odd places. And so the easiest way to know that your ear is in the right spot, if you have hair, your hair would kind of start here, angles up here, and this is for a guy, but I mean, really, it's the same basic thing for a girl. Just have long hair around it. And so there's my hairline. And you can see just about how much space I have here. And so from here, I want to do basically the same thing. So here's my hairline. And I've got just about that kind of a space right there. On top of my hairline here. And I know my ear is in the right spot because I don't have a ridiculously extended part right here. I guess bit of hair here. And I don't have to shorten it. And I've actually had that happen where I draw the ear in and then I just don't really have enough space for the hair. And I don't piece together that I've drawn my ear in the wrong spot until I do that. And so I've kind of made it a habit of just using that as just a quick mental guide to make sure that I've got my ear in the right spot. And here is a use case scenario for that. So let's draw a panel. Here it is. This is a panel, and there are a lot of panels around it. And I've already drawn all those panels, and I've got a face basically like this. Pretty standard, kind of 3/4 face. So my forehead line, my brow line, my nose line, and my chin. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw an eye here. I'm too high with my eyes. I keep doing that. I learned for years to draw my eye along that line, and I switched it because it's more useful. It's something I got from Loomis, and I forget all the time, and then I have to adjust my entire face to match. So I've got my nose here, got my mouth. We're going very, very simple with this. And see how I'm having to adjust all my proportions based on what I did with the eye. It's just how it goes. So what I don't want to have to do is now draw the entire back of the head and really map everything out and figure out exactly where that stupid ear goes. And it makes it a little confusing. Does it go here? Does it go, But the easiest way for me to do that is I know I want about that much space for my hair. So that would be the back of it. So all the ear that I would see would just be a little bit right there. And it's really easy for me to place and not be wrong. And I'm not having to project out this whole head into other panels and draw through. Hopefully that example explains it. It actually comes up a lot. And being able to just place your ear without having to draw the rest of the head, if you're in a panel like this and you don't want to have to do that, it's very, very quick shorthand just to be able to get it placed well.
So now that we've drawn some ears from the front and the side and a 3/4, we're going to move on to some more odd angles. So I'm going to draw a head basically 3/4 from behind. So it would be about the center line along the side. There would be my brow line. My nose line would be just about here. My chin here, my forehead here. My nose would be here. We're going very, very simple with this head because we're just establishing where I want my ear to be. And I feel like this is just a little far forward. Let's move that back a little bit. And I can actually really measure that the same way I did before. Let me put that in there. There's my hairline. And that really makes sure that I've got the space for my ear that I really need to have in order for that face to work. All right, so I know my ear kind of tilts back just a little bit from here. I'm going to start at the top of my ear here. The bottom of my ear is going to basically be here. And let me erase this down so I have something that's a little more neat. And from here, we're going to see more of the back of the ear. So this large rounded outside portion, you're going to see very little at the top of it. You'll see more of the back. And I have a real tendency to do this right here, which I want to avoid because there's another connection in there. So let me go ahead and draw the bottom of the lobe here, this little bit that connects here. And now I'm going to draw the interior of my ear. And that's what I meant. There's a connection that goes in here, and I want to make sure to get that across. And at the top here, what I want to do is take this part and overlap it over this part because this part is more forward now. And I'm going to draw just a little bit of the connection in here, just like that. And there we go. There's an ear basically from a rear 3/4. All right, so for the next ear, we're going to be looking almost directly down on it. And so here's my head. This is the top of my head here. I'm going to draw my face here. So this is my brow line. My nose will be here. It's all very foreshortened because we're looking at the top of the head. This will be my center line. As always, I reserve the right to fix any of this if I put it down and it's not right away. That's the reason why we draw this loosely and lightly. Brow line. adjust that just a little bit. All right, so I'm just going to quickly draw a face in here, just so we have some kind of point of reference. And it's always good practice to just do this as often as you can anyway. So there we go. There's my head looking down on it. My ear is going to be basically here. And so let's go ahead and lighten that down. I'm now not going to see this part wide. I'm going to see the top wide because I'm looking at the top of the ear. Also, before I draw the ear, I need to make sure to round my forms all the way around. So I know my ear is going to go basically here. And so let's start with the top of the ear like this. You'll see quite a bit more of it. And then it's going to come down for shortened. I'm going to draw the interior bit, overlap this way because this one's in front. And then we go. Very, very simple. And to make sure that I've got my ear placed correctly, if I really want to, I feel like it looks pretty good, but I can just go ahead and draw my hairline in there and it fits pretty well, mostly. I don't know if it's perfect. And you know what? I'm looking at this. It's really not perfect. When I drew my hairline in, I'm actually kind of a little further back than I really wanted to be. And so we're going to erase that entire ear. And we're going to fix it. And as much as I wish that I never made mistakes in these things, I feel like it's probably a good thing to show you that too, because I absolutely do. All right, I'm going to start with my hairline. I want to make sure with my eye here, I went just a little wide here. That's really, I think, what happened. So let's go ahead and fix that form. I'm going to draw my hairline in, and that's going to place my ear further forward than I drew it. And so I'm just going to adjust the whole thing further forward. I'm being a little loose right now. We're just kind of correcting what we had, but I want it to be basically right. And there we go. That ear is now placed a little better than I had it originally. And as much as I hate making mistakes and I want everything to be perfect, it's so nice to have these kinds of visual cues to be able to sort those kinds of things out when they happen. It can be very difficult to be self-critical of your own work and to see your own mistakes. And so having these kinds of things gives you something quickly to reference by. And if it is right, then you know you've done it right. We're going to do two more. I'm going to draw the ear from behind from a bit further of an angle. And this, to me, is the angle of the ear that kind of presents the most problems. I find I struggle with this one a little bit more because I end up with a conflict with this interior bit and how to represent it well. So I'm going to draw the back of the ear more flattened out. It's going to be more foreshortened. Here we go. And now I am actually going to draw this all the way through because you really won't see much of the interior of the ear. I can see the connection of my ear here. This lobe, very flattened because you're looking more directly, very flattened. And then the interior of my ear is going to go here. And so there you go. And you can see I'm fighting with it a little bit. This connection is what really gives me trouble. Because it does overlap, I want to make sure that I've got it represented well. It's just a bit more of an angle, but it does tend to give me a little bit of trouble. Ultimately, the angles we've covered here aren't every possible conceivable angle of an ear, but they really cover enough ground that you should be able to draw an ear from really any angle you need. And now we're going to go ahead and go into lighting. So I'm going to draw an ear from the front, remembering all my basic shapes, and they never change, which makes ears such an easy thing to draw. And they have a lot more flexibility than a nose, for instance, which also never changes, but is more difficult to draw because the slightest deviation on a nose can really alter the look of a face. And it's really not so true for ears. There's my ear drawn a little more tightly and a little larger so we can go ahead and light it. This is incredibly easy. It doesn't get too much more easy than lighting an ear. Basically, no matter what angle, we're going to choose this angle here. What angle of light we choose, we're going to have a shadow pulled up in here. We're also going to have a shadow in here. This is where your ear hole is. As a matter of fact, really, I think I can just go dark. I'm going to give it a little bit of a hook here. That kind of places this lobe onto the side of the head. I'm going to do some line weight here. I'm going to draw a shadow in here. I don't want to go all the way to the edge because I want to give that a little bit of a rim. I've got a shadow in here. And now I have a couple little tricks that I like to do. Because I want this to curve over, I'm just going to hook a little shadow in there, and it gives it just a little bit more depth. And then also I need to cast a shadow over this part here. And that's really all there is to it. It's not a complex thing to light. Ears are very, very simple to light. I find even lighting ears from below ends up being fairly simple. Let's go ahead and draw an ear from the side and do the same thing. We'll light it from a bit of a different angle, I guess. So I'm just sketching in the basic form of my ear to start. Got this part here, this part here. My interior part is going to connect just in like this. And there it is. Very, very simple form. So let's lighten that down and tighten it up. So this time we're going to light the ear from this side. It really makes very little difference ultimately. This is still just going to be dark, this whole area in here. So let's just start with that. I still want to hook this part just a little bit because I feel like it connects to the head a little bit better. This is all going to be dark in here. This will be dark in here. I'm going to hook this over this mildly. This will be dark in here. Matter of fact, let's just make this all dark here. And really, I think I can get away with making most of that dark in there. I'm going to give this just a little bit of a shadow just to round this form here. Shadow the side away from the light a little bit here. And I also have to cast a shadow to place this over the interior part here. And I could even just go dark, and I probably should. I want it to be as simple as possible. So there we go. How this lighting differs from this lighting lit kind of from the opposite sides, it really kind of almost doesn't. It does just a little bit. I'm lighting maybe this side here, or I'm shadowing this side here more than I would if I was lighting it from over here. But for the most part, it stays fairly consistent. I'm going to draw an ear from a 3/4 from behind, and we're going to light that. And then we're going to call this done because ears are very, very simple. The whole concept really of this video in presenting this to you is to show you just how much you can simplify ears down into a very, very basic, universally usable thing that you just don't have to think about. All right, so there's my ear from a 3/4. I'm just gonna light it from the top. So it's gonna be all shadowed underneath this lip over here. This will all be dark in here. Again, I'm just gonna give that a little bit of a hook there just to attach it to the head. I just find that that grounds it nicely. This part is in front of this part, so I'm gonna hook it that way. Always be aware which one is closer to the viewer, and it makes it very easy to know which side to overlap. And I can also cast a shadow down from the ear here. Let's go ahead and do that. Since I'm lighting it, it would make sense that it would cast a bit of a shadow onto the face. And I have to admit, I find it very strange to draw the shadow from an ear kind of onto nothing. And it throws me a little bit. But I think in my entire career, I've never drawn an isolated ear and shadowed it. All right, at the risk of beating a dead horse, we're just going to go ahead and do this again very, very quickly. So I've got my overall rounded shape. I don't want to go completely curved with. I want to keep my shapes just a little bit more interesting. The interior lobe, the top of the bottom lobe here, and the interior bit. And there you go. There's another ear, and it's super fast and super easy. It does not have to be more complex than that. This is really all you need. And you want to be able to get to the point where you can just do this very, very quickly and easily because you really don't want to be spending a lot of time in your drawing thinking about ears. But you also don't want your ears to stand out as something that is a real weakness in your drawing. There's really no reason for it. They're such an easy thing to get sorted out. This has been a bit of a quicker video because ears are relatively simple. They're not something that people focus on a lot. And I think the idea of drawing ears that are successful on your figures is to have a really good shorthand to do them as quickly and easily and effectively as possible. I hope this video has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and whatever it is that YouTube has now that you should, I have no idea, I've lost track. But do all those things and I will see you in the next video.